Welcome, viewers. This is Church of Uganda Family TV, a TV that enriches lives, a TV that every parent can comfortably watch alongside her children, very children. Praise the Lord. My name is Reverend Asaf Kauma Mabirizi, the host who always presents to you this program, Parenting, every Monday from 6:30. I'm glad once again to come after last Monday when we discussed about role modeling. Today I come with a guest and we are going to discuss effective disciplining strategies. And I believe this is going to be a very enriching program to our parents, but also young people out there who intend to become parents. I want to welcome my guest today, and I want to give her opportunity to introduce herself.
Yeah, good evening, dear viewers. I am Alice Neumbe. I am born again. I work with a Christian organization, and during my free time, I do ministry to young people, and this I mean the teens, the children, and the youth. And I also find time and attend to their stakeholders also in those different groups, maybe different mothers, different fathers, to make sure that we learn something together. And where need be, we pray and counsel, and where I can't handle, I refer you.
In fact, Alice, what you have not told people is that you are also a parent. I want you to begin by helping us to define what is discipline or punishment or punishing children. What does it mean?
Okay. My parenting calling came early in life.
Yes.
It was unexpected. I was busy in campus and shortly during my first job, chasing my own life dreams, my goals, planning to graduate and do other things. So eventually my sister-in-law dies. Actually, that was after when my sister-in-law died. My mother had already brought a child at home to keep us company because I was in boarding school at Daystar University, Kenya, and my mother was lonely in the house. My brothers were all in school. So my mother had earlier brought in a child who were looking at as my mother's young baby because for us we had grown up. Our last born was already in college. We are 4, and we were born together, so we grew up similarly. So when that child came in, we learned something about children because we never took care of ourselves. Then shortly, 2 years later, my sister-in-law died in 2014 when I was working with a mission organization in Mukono. Now, to me, that was the greatest hit. I resigned my job. I went back to our home. In Nairobi, I started babysitting. I didn't know what is babysitting, so I started babysitting my niece. And after 10 months, I came to Uganda. And guess the first job I get is to work with Compassion. I volunteered as a children minister with Compassion, sometimes teaching in secondary schools, and it was not really my target number one. My target number one was office, theology institutions, and all that.
Mama Alice, I'm interested in a definition, a brief definition to you, or in your perspective, or in your notes that you have taken. What we want to help our listener out there to understand: what is disciplining? What does it mean to discipline?
Okay, so with that background, I learned also how to be very sweet, merciful to these children. 2 children, I raised up 2 girls. One is in senior 5, now one is in P4. I learned how to discipline them. And discipline, in my perception here, is a way of instilling values into these young people so that they follow what is right and they do what is right. And sometimes, much as you're so sweet, you must be forced to punish them. And punishing them in the sense that you are instilling a penalty for them to feel the pain and not repeat the mistake that they have done.
Okay. Yeah. I want also to tell our listeners and people watching this program that young people can rebel, can turn out to be rebellious, but often there are consequences that they follow in their course of being rebellious. For example, they can appear to be attention seeking. They have that attention getting strategy or mechanism, followed by power struggle. I only feel self-assured if you do what I want. That is power struggle. That can also be followed by revenge. There are many young people who do certain things and actually turn out to become rebellious, but in form of revenge, because everything comes with a purpose. And I remember, like I told you, whatever individual, be young or adult, background shapes us a lot. And so here their intentions young people carry as they rebel. And lastly, displaying inferiority complex or inadequacy. You find that a child, in course of her or his being rebellious, there are no significant results other than failing and feeling inadequate. That's why we find many of young people today experiencing low self-esteem. But the problem or the challenge we are addressing this afternoon or evening is, how do parents punish? Anyway, if they punish that way or exercise discipline upon their children that way, is that form of punishment being effective? Anyway, I want to engage my guest here. Alice, I want you to tell us, Mama Alice.
Yes.
I want you to tell us to describe how parents discipline children today in the current, modern, but also consider the past. Okay. How have parents in Africa been disciplining their children?
Okay. Discipline is a very tricky subject.
Sure.
When you're dealing with young children, you can think you're disciplining them, and yet you're forcing them to really go astray. But the discipline that I've seen in Africa is 70% love and 30% personal emotions. And so when it is personal emotions like that, you need to be very careful, because if you've quarreled with someone and then in the evening you're coming to punish the child will be bearing the consequences of a mistake they didn't do. But if you're punishing them out of love, you're saying, this is my child and I just don't want my child to get lost in this behavior. I want them, what is your intention? You just want them to turn out and be the best, the responsible adult that you want to be proud of, the responsible adult that is going to carry forth your legacy or even help you correct any mistake in your life that you might have grown up with. And so your intention and love should be key. But truth be said, Africa, we are punishing children over reasons that are not really related to them.
I want us to be real, physical. Have you seen parents punishing their children? I mean, in a form that they are instead hurting them?
Yes, I have seen.
And most
that.
likely, in most cases, through caning. Some can do slapping over the cheeks.
Yes.
I have an experience where a student was slapped badly by a teacher, but the teacher didn't know that this child had a toothache, and that was a complication. But there are cases today that are visible, especially on media, where they post parents punishing their children in the form of corporal, almost to death. In fact, we've had cases where parents punish their children to death.
Yes.
You can imagine.
Yes.
Because the child has stolen something, they end up burning their hands and beating them up. Literally, many children have lost lives because of that. What do you have to say about this form of punishment that instills pain and hurt on the lives of these young ones?
This type of punishment doesn't just start automatically. It starts innocently. You think you're just caning or beating, but if your mind is not alert and your intention for punishing, you find that the emotions keep increasing. During COVID, most parents lost their jobs and they had a lot of financial stress.
Yes.
So you would see a parent who's struggling to provide for the family. When they start to beat the child, they will beat and never stop. and many children died. And even their teachers, when you fail one number in mathematics, they will beat you. Even if you urinate on yourself, they will still add you more. They will even go out and beat you. And to make it worse in the village, P6, P7 girls, teachers will punish them and punish them the more because they fell in love with them. And a child said, I need to study. We had a scenario where one child in P3 told us that these teachers, sometimes they punish girls if maybe they send them to buy cigarette or alcohol they don't bring, or maybe they've fallen in love with them. So these punishments have been there, and they're there in Uganda, even parents at homes. But we need to ask God to forgive us so that we punish with love and with good reasons and not selfish reasons.
In fact, many parents have a problem of how can they effectively administer discipline to their children. Now, I want to share briefly to our viewers consequences of harsh discipline. This applies to teachers as well as parents, because there are parents who discipline their children in a way that their children end up being hurt. And remember that children are hurt in many ways or different forms, emotionally and physically. Some scars can be visible, some scars are invisible. Some of the consequences of harsh discipline can be emotional. And under emotional, listen carefully, parents who are watching. Your children are likely to face impaired self-image and self-esteem, low self-esteem. Impaired. Those children who cannot express themselves freely, those children who cannot believe and trust or believe in themselves, who they are, that is an effect of emotional damage. And emotional damage may mean as a result of an insult over your child. You know, how do you speak to your child when your child makes a mistake? How do you speak to your child when your child goes astray or appears to be rebellious? It's very important. If you insult the child, you're likely to hurt this child emotionally. And the results are impaired self-image and self-esteem. Difficulties to make friends and relate with others. These cases are common in schools. I'm a chaplain who works with schools, and I've seen this. You find students, girls, especially girls, finding it hard to make friends because they're suffering low self-esteem. Social withdrawal. They don't want to relate with others. They want to walk alone. They want to do certain things alone, or on the compound or in class. Depressive symptoms. Young people suffering depression. The reason is these have been hurt emotionally at home or at school, and then suicidal thoughts. These are on an increase in our schools among young people. So parents and teachers take this seriously. When you choose to harshly discipline a child, you're likely to affect her or his emotional strength. Then there are also behavioral effects, side effects. Behavioral consequences may be more aggressive and oppositional behavior. This happens in both girls and boys. And this is as a result of harsh discipline or harsh disciplining of children both at school and at home. More likely to show symptoms of hyperactivity. Hyperactivity disorder is when a young child cannot be steady, concentrate on one. They are jumping from here to there, from there to there, no results. That can be a result of harsh discipline. And under behavior consequences, we find also more bedwetting among young children. When you find that your child is often bedwetting, beyond what is normal, that can be linked to harsh discipline at home. Then cognitive. There's also cognitive consequences. There are cognitive consequences as a result of harsh discipline to our children. This can include learning difficulties, children who find learning a problem at school, but also at home, because we have informal learning that takes place at home. And also concentration problems. A child cannot concentrate to a program going on in class or a class lesson. Or when a parent is trying to address something, a child is unstable, can't concentrate. That is a cognitive issue, or that can result from harsh discipline. There's also physical consequences that come as a result of physical punishment. One is under emotional, then behavior and cognitive. Under emotional, there are more mental health problems. I think this should send a signal to parents that we need to adopt better ways of ministering discipline to our children, or disciplining our children to avoid such, because these are common among our children today. Problem of mental health. Then this includes depressive symptoms and internalizing problems. We also find under emotion children with lower self-esteem, very common. Less secure attachment to caregiver. You find you're a parent, but your children are very far from you. You're a caregiver, but there's no close attachment to your child. Even when you come back, the way your child welcomes you back or cannot easily hug you, or look straight into your eyes. These are attachment issues which we discussed sometime back in this program. Then finally, under emotional, this is under physical punishment ministered to a child. Under emotional consequences, we have lower quality of caregiver-child relationship. And this is very close to attachment. Under behavioral problems, consequences, we have more aggressive behavior in childhood. More aggressive behavior in child. If your child is aggressive among fellow students or fellow children, that can be linked to the way this girl or boy is punished at home. It could be harsh punishment might have been ministered to this child. Then more aggressive behavior in adolescence and adulthood. More antisocial and delinquent behavior in childhood. More antisocial behavior and delinquent in adolescence and adulthood. So you see, it continues even in adulthood. When you grow up, you have social issues, which could have been seen in you during your childhood, but continuing even in your adulthood. Less pro-social behavior. Less pro-social behaviors among people or young people who have experienced harsh punishment. And lastly, cognitive. This is to do with the mind. So there are cognitive consequences that result from harsh punishment to our children. Lower school attachment, for example. Lower school attachment, lower working memory capacity. Your child cannot memorize whatever is being taught. You could be the problem. And I've seen parents beating up these children because of poor performance. But they don't know they are adding wound to wound. And often teachers do the same. They beat up children who have performed poorly. But this all learn has a background. How do you discipline children at home is very important. And then we have lower attentional capacity and lower concentration at school. I want to engage my guest, Mama Alice.
Thank you.
Do you have experience of this harsh punishment?
Yes.
You can share with us briefly in about 3 minutes. What is your experience with harsh punishment? At home, maybe at school where you are, with your children. It could even be from your very home.
Yes, I have this experience, but basically, I grew up in an environment where I'm showered with too much love.
Yes.
My mother really loved me so much. She could really beat me and punish me whenever I did a mistake. But she could remind me, I want you to be the responsible girl. I want you to be a girl that will show people that we are prayerful in this family. And I want you to achieve your dreams, academic excellence and profession in future.
Yes.
I don't want you to live a struggling life like the way some of us have lived. We were not graduates, and so she would punish me.
She was beating you for a purpose.
For a purpose. But it reached a point I started going astray. I was one girl born with 3 boys. And so whenever my brothers would do something wrong, they would join 3 of them at some point when we were all transitioning into teenagehood. And so for me, I would start to fight these 3 boys. Whenever it is holiday and my mother's gone to look for a job, I would punish, beat them, pour water on them. And so my mother reached a point and said, Alice, we have always associated you with humility, prayer, church. You have always been the pride of the family. What is this? I think there's a spiritual inclination to this.
She was punishing you, but instead you are becoming more rebellious.
She would punish me, show me all the love. But at some point, I started behaving badly. So she would punish me the normal way, no change. So what she did, she stopped being harsh. She became friendly. She took me in an evening fellowship. Not and they prayed with me.
Alice. Was the punishment by caning?
Yes, she would cane, and at some point she would even tell you, you are not eating your favorite meal. And so she would even try to bring in my brothers to preach to me and tell me, Alice, if you continue like that, it's not right. My 3rd-born brother told me, actually, if Jesus comes now, you go to hell. You bind with all your clothes on. So I looked at what? I looked at mommy and my brothers. I said they have a point. So one day mommy told me, Alice, would you mind? Today I'm not beating you up. Escort me to fellowship. We are going to tell them that you have
Mommy said I'm not beating you up.
Yes, today.
This time it's church.
It's enough. This time we Full Gospel Church used to have a fellowship near our home. I was not a member. For me, I was a member of All Saints Cathedral and sometimes a member of Deliverance and Glad Tidings, but I had to obey mommy and follow her. So they prayed with me that evening and told me, you are a child of God, you are a child of destiny. They even started telling me, you can even preach. So the next, they prayed with me. I accepted to get saved. And from the next week, I was the one preaching from the book of Daniel. And I picked it up. I went to university. I did communication and theology. And God transformed me. I no longer beat my brothers, but I love them.
That's beautiful.
I correct them.
That was beautiful.
But where the punishment was too much severe,
there was no change.
There was no change.
There was no. Instead, you became more rebellious. I hope parents, you are learning from this wonderful testimony. Now, in the remaining few minutes, we want to engage you with the effective discipline strategies. Viewers, I beg we can listen carefully. This is maintaining good behavior and changing misbehavior. Ideally, what works is this. What works today is this. Caning may cause your children to be more rebellious because her testimony has been visible in the stages that young people, as they rebel, the subsequent stages I took you through first, you know, trying to be seen, visible, you know, the children want to be seen, and then later they turn out to be rebellious, and finally they lose self-esteem because rebellion cannot take them any further. And this is the characteristics of young people today. Young people, many of them lack self-esteem, especially those who have harsh parents at home. Desired behavior is reinforced, dear parents and teachers over there, by adding positive incentives or by removing negative tasks. Positive incentives can come in form of a praise to your child. Don't take it for granted when your child does something perfectly well. As a parent, go ahead and praise this child. Dear Rachel, thank you so much. You are the best, you know, for cleaning the house. She has cleaned the house so well. You are the best. And do it as often as possible. Because many parents neglect praising their children because they feel, yeah, that's what the child is ought to do. No, not always. If you want to maintain this behavior in a child, praise them. And this happens when you reinforce by adding a positive incentive or by removing a negative task. Suppose your child might have done something wrong and you punish the child by telling the child maybe to clean the veranda, house veranda on a daily basis. Because your child has done something good, you can reduce the veranda task or reduce it by bringing others on board than leaving it to that only person. That's one way we can build positive behavior or reinforce positive behavior among our children. The next, misbehavior. How do we deal with misbehavior? This can be modified by adding negative consequences or by removing positive incentives. And I want to show this generally, to express it generally here, with examples. Reinforcing good behavior at home. When your child does good, throw positive words, for example. These are some of the examples. Some examples of the activities you can do or gestures you can do to your child when your child happens to do something good. Throw positive words. Exercise eye contact. Attention. Give your child attention. Demonstration of affection by hugs or by patting at the back of your child. Privileges. Avail privileges to these children whenever they happen to do something good. This is adding a positive incentive and one way to reinforce good behavior among children. Then privileges can be outings, can be certain foods, and so forth. What about reinforcing a negative incentive? Rather, removing a negative incentive. It could have been reducing tasks like cleaning the blackboard. Some teachers punish their children by saying, every time we need to clean, you clean. But this time, if your child happens to be improving in terms of behavior, you can reduce that task and say, now today you're not cleaning the blackboard. Maybe someone else can be engaged. That's one way we can reinforce good behavior. It can be at home, cleaning veranda at home. If the child is cleaning the veranda, withdraw. That was a quick example. What about modifying a misbehavior? Now we are looking at disciplining a child who has misbehaved. The intention is to modify misbehavior. And this can be done two ways, like I've said before, adding a negative incentive. And this can happen by cleaning, ordering or asking your child to clean the house veranda. House verandas are not always cleaned, maybe often. But this time, it could be the housemaid doing it. Maybe it is a shared responsibility. But this time, engage this child to clean the veranda alone as a form of punishment. And then the other part of it is removing the positive incentive, the privileges. If your child has messed up and there are privileges, you could choose to remove the privileges as a form of punishment. One way to punish children that way is by removing them from the group activity. Suppose at school you are exercising group work or group game or group activity, you can exclude the child and say, no, step out because of your indiscipline for some time. Coaches do that during their games. You step out of the game. You stop enjoying what others are enjoying. Break time. Others can go for break, but you can engage this child continuously in the business. The child has been denied break because of her indiscipline. This is better, far better than caning. Active ignoring of misbehavior. Some teachers, some parents can choose to ignore. These children are attention seekers. They can rebel with the purpose of seeking attention. But as a parent, you can be technical to ignore whatever the child is doing. But emphasis here is generally focus on reinforcing good behavior. Focus on reinforcing good behavior. If your child does good, praise that child. If your child does good, give reward. Give reward. If the desired behavior is reinforced and children feel accepted, they will show less misbehavior. I hope you get the point right. Yes. They will show less misbehavior. One that appreciation given to them will bring them closer to you as a parent, and they'll really feel bad if they do anything against your will as a parent, because there's a relationship developed, there's an affection, a secure affection developed between you and that child. I want to engage my guest again. Alice, you've had this form of and they are describing it to be effective. What is your mind about it? Do you think our parents need to adopt this? Because certainly in Africa, we have caned. I've personally been caned. I was caned in my childhood. I remember I got 8 in math. I left some numbers undone, and my teacher gave me 10 strokes of canes for leaving numbers undone. Unfortunately, I don't remember defending myself, but I had a reason why, and I couldn't defend myself for that. What is your mind about this as we conclude this program?
My mind is that we need to combine both. We need to combine both caning and these other types of punishment which are not caning. But we all need to make sure that we are loving and we are caring. For me, I can cane, but I will not cane the head. And I will also not use slippers to cane my child, and I will also not use a broom to cane the child. So when you're caning, be sober, be alert, and just make sure that you're applying love. And also make sure that caning is less, talking to the child is more, being a role model that was said last week is also a priority, and just showing them love such that they are attached to you and they will feel guilty doing the wrong thing.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Our time is up, dear listeners and viewers. This is a program that enriches lives. We want to create a conducive environment at home for child development so that our children can grow up well. Some of these maids you see at home who mistreat children, they have a background. They were mistreated at some time, and they are trying to transfer this same mistreatment to our children. I want to encourage parents. Caning has not worked for Africa, because we have many intelligent young people and adults who have grown up, but they have not helped to transform this continent. Why? Because they have a tough background that keeps them insecure, even in those big offices. But try to be good role models, like Alice has said. Try to show love to these children as you discipline them. Try to avoid the cane. That is my suggestion. Try to avoid the cane as much as, because we cannot describe the degree of your stress at a given time. Sometimes you hold the cane, the intention is to use it appropriately, and you end up misusing it in anger, not because the child has done something, but because of what you're going through as a parent. May God bless you. And we send greetings to our people. Send greetings to your family.
Greetings to Mommy, to Tamara, to Emily at school, and to everybody watching and everybody praying and supporting this program. And Seroma High School, may the Lord, Family TV at large, may the Lord bless you.
Seroma is celebrating 20 years of existence. That is 1st April. 1st April, we welcome all our guests that have been invited, including all alumni. Please come and join us and celebrate together, and to thank God for the wonderful results we had in that school. God bless you, our listeners. Greetings to my family.